North Claiborne Avenue was once one of the most alive streets in New Orleans. Beneath a continuous canopy of mature oak trees, a neutral ground, that is what locals call the wide landscaped median that separates opposing lanes of traffic, served as the social and commercial spine of the Tremé and Seventh Ward neighborhoods. Families gathered there on Sunday afternoons. Second-line parades moved through it. Small businesses lined both sides. The street was not merely a road, it was the place where a largely Black New Orleans community organized its daily life. Today, if you stand at the corner of Claiborne and Orleans Avenue, you do not see any of that. Above your head, the elevated concrete deck of Interstate 10 stretches in both directions as far as you can see. The oaks are gone. The neutral ground is a dim underpass filled with traffic noise and exhaust. What was a boulevard is now a service road running under a highway it never asked for. That is not an accident of geography. It is the direct result of a single planning decision made in the 1960s, and it is a decision whose consequences the neighborhood is still absorbing today. To understand what happened, you have to understand what Claiborne Avenue meant before the highway arrived. The street runs the full length of New Orleans, connecting neighborhoods from the Tremé near the French Quarter all the way out toward Gentilly. For much of the 20th century, the stretch of North Claiborne through the Tremé and the 7th Ward functioned as the main commercial corridor for Black residents in a city that enforced legal segregation. When Jim Crow law prevented Black New Orleanians from shopping freely on Canal Street or in other white commercial districts, North Claiborne filled that gap. Barbershops, pharmacies, dress shops, restaurants, and funeral homes lined the avenue. The oak-shaded neutral ground in the center was not empty grass. It was programmed public space where community gatherings happened routinely and where the culture of second-line parades found one of its most celebrated stages. This was a neighborhood with documented economic density and deep cultural infrastructure. The promise of Claiborne Avenue was not abstract. It was measurable in the number of operating businesses, in the assessed value of properties along the corridor, and in the social functions the street reliably performed year after year. The constraint that would break that promise did not come from inside the neighborhood. It came from the federal highway program that had been reshaping American cities since the Interstate Highway Act of 1956. That legislation created a largely federally funded system for building limited-access expressways, and city planners across the country quickly identified urban freeways as a tool for solving what they described as traffic congestion and blight. Though historians have documented that the designation of blight was applied with striking consistency to low-income Black neighborhoods that lacked political power to resist. In New Orleans, the plan for an elevated expressway along the Interstate 10 corridor required a route through the city. Planners chose North Claiborne Avenue. The selection was not random. The avenue was wide. The neutral ground provided space for columns without demolishing building frontages directly. And the corridor ran in exactly the direction the highway needed to travel. What the selection ignored was the functioning social and economic life that occupied that space every single day. Construction of the elevated Interstate 10 structure along North Claiborne began in the late 1960s. The mature oak trees that had defined the neutral ground for generations were removed. The open sky above the median was replaced with a concrete overhead deck supported by columns. The neutral ground that had served as programmable public space became in effect a dark and noisy underpass. The street did not physically disappear. Traffic still moved along its surface roads, but the conditions that had made it a destination were eliminated. This is the mechanism that urban planners and researchers have since documented extensively. An elevated highway does not simply add traffic capacity above a street. It fundamentally changes the street's character. Noise levels rise sharply beneath and adjacent to the structure. Air quality deteriorates. Natural light is blocked. Pedestrian comfort drops. Property values along the affected corridor tend to fall, which discourages investment and encourages existing businesses to relocate. Over time, a self-reinforcing cycle develops. Fewer businesses mean fewer reasons to walk the street. Fewer pedestrians mean fewer customers, and fewer customers mean more closures. The highway did not demolish the businesses on Claiborne Avenue directly. It changed the environmental conditions until the economics of operating there shifted against them. The cost of that shift was substantial and uneven. The Tremé and Seventh Ward were already among the lower-income neighborhoods in a low-income city. The loss of North Claiborne's commercial corridor did not land equally across New Orleans. It landed on the residents who had built and depended on that corridor specifically because other parts of the city had been closed to them. The highway removed the infrastructure of Black commercial and social life on Claiborne Avenue at precisely the moment when the civil rights movement was opening other options, but opening them gradually, unevenly, and not without resistance. The community lost its anchor before the promised alternatives fully materialized. There is also a counterpoint that deserves honest treatment. Interstate 10 does carry a large volume of traffic through New Orleans, and the regional highway system of which it is a part has real economic functions. Freight movement, commuter access, and regional connectivity are not trivial. Some planners at the time believed the elevated structure was less destructive than an at-grade freeway would have been, because it left the surface street intact rather than severing it completely. That argument has not disappeared. Any serious conversation about modifying or removing the structure has to account for where that traffic goes, how it is rerouted, and what the costs of disruption are during any transition period. The uncertainty around removal is genuine. Studies and proposals for replacing the elevated section of I-10 along Claiborne with a surface-level boulevard have circulated for years. Advocates point to examples in other American cities, notably the removal of elevated freeways in San Francisco and Milwaukee, where removal improved surrounding neighborhoods and did not produce the traffic catastrophe critics predicted. But New Orleans is not San Francisco or Milwaukee. The city's street network, its geography bounded by the Mississippi River and Lake Pontchartrain, and the specific role that segment of I-10 plays in the regional system, all create local variables that make direct comparison uncertain. What is not uncertain is the current state of North Claiborne Avenue beneath the interstate. The cultural life of the corridor has not recovered to anything resembling its pre-highway condition. The second-line tradition continues in New Orleans. It is too deeply embedded in the city's culture to have been fully suppressed by a highway. But the physical stage that gave it one of its defining settings is gone. The oaks are gone. The neutral ground as a social space is gone. The workable alternative, based on the evidence from comparable highway removals, is not simply to demolish the structure and declare victory. The model that has worked elsewhere involves replacing elevated infrastructure with a surface boulevard that restores pedestrian-scale conditions, light, air quality, noise reduction, and safe crossing distances, while managing traffic through parallel routes and signal timing. It involves sustained public investment in the affected corridor during and after the transition to prevent displacement of the very residents whose neighborhood the change is meant to benefit. And it requires honest accounting of traffic consequences rather than dismissing them. The planning choice that broke Claiborne Avenue's promise was not inevitable. Other routes were available, other alignments were studied. The decision to elevate Interstate 10 over North Claiborne Avenue reflected a specific set of priorities: regional traffic efficiency, federal highway funding, and the political weight given to different neighborhoods' objections. And those priorities systematically undervalued what existed on that neutral ground. The lesson of North Claiborne is not that highways are always wrong, or that urban freeways never serve a purpose. The lesson is that the costs of infrastructure decisions are not distributed the same way the benefits are, and that when planners ignore the existing social and economic fabric of a neighborhood, the damage is real, measurable, and not automatically reversible. 60 years later, North Claiborne Avenue is still waiting for that accounting to be completed. Visual reconstructions are illustrative. Facts and interpretations are based on the sources listed in the description.